You don't need to explain. I saw everything.
Everything!
The text message arrived at 11:47 p.m., just as I finished tightening the last screw on our busted front door lock. My hands were grimy from the repair work, and I wiped them on my jeans before picking up my phone. I'll be late. Huge traffic jam on Route 95. Don't wait up. Love you. A. I stared at the screen for a moment, then opened the family location app we'd installed last year for safety purposes. According to the little blue dot, my wife Alyssa wasn't anywhere near Route 95. She was at the Riverside Inn, a roadside motel about 15 minutes from our house. Well, I'll be damned, I muttered to myself, taking a screenshot. I guess the only gridlock tonight is in her schedule. My name is Nick Bradbury, and I've been married to Alyssa for 12 years. I'm 39, own a small metalworking business, and until about 30 seconds ago, I thought I had a pretty good handle on my life. Turns out I was wrong about that last part. I sat down at my kitchen table and stared at the evidence glowing on my phone screen. The rationale part of my brain suggested there might be an innocent explanation. Maybe she was helping a friend. Maybe there was some kind of emergency. Maybe the location service was glitching, but my gut knew better. My gut had been whispering warnings for months now. The late nights at work, the sudden interest in new clothes, the way she'd started guarding her phone like it contained state secrets, the mysterious girls' nights that seemed to happen every Tuesday. I opened my text messages and typed, "Don't worry about the traffic. I'll forward your location to someone who might be able to help clear things up." I hit send and watched the little delivered notification appear. Then I waited. 15 seconds later, my phone buzzed. "Wait, please don't. I can explain everything." "I bet you can," I said to the empty kitchen. I opened our family group chat, the one that included Alyssa, her mother Helen, her brother David, and my sister Katie. I attached the screenshot of Alyssa's location along with her original traffic jam message. My message was simple. Interesting traffic pattern tonight. Alyssa seems to be stuck at the Riverside Inn instead of Route 95. Thought the family should know where she really is. I hit send and set the phone down on the table. Then I walked to my home office, opened my laptop, and began documenting everything. Screenshots, timestamps, location data. If Alyssa wanted to play games, she'd learn quickly that I didn't lose at games I actually decided to play. My phone started ringing immediately. Helen, Alyssa's mother, appeared on the caller ID. I let it go to voicemail, then David called. Voicemail, Katie called next. "Nick?" Katie's voice was confused. "What the heck is going on?" "Your sister-in-law is having an affair," I said calmly, still typing on my laptop. "I just found out about it 5 minutes ago." "Are you sure? I mean, maybe there's—" "Katie, I'm sure. The location doesn't lie, the timing doesn't lie, and her panicked response definitely doesn't lie." "Oh, Nick, I'm so sorry. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to handle it my way, methodically, completely, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly who Alyssa really is." After I hung up with Katie, I spent the next hour creating a comprehensive digital file. Every suspicious text, every unexplained expense, every Tuesday night emergency at work. I uploaded everything to a secure cloud server and made backup copies. At 1:23 a.m., I heard Alyssa's car pull into our driveway. I was sitting in my recliner, reading a book, when she walked through the front door. She looked flustered, her hair slightly messed up, her lipstick gone. "Hey, babe," she said, trying to sound casual. "Sorry I'm so late. That traffic was absolutely insane." I looked up from my book and smiled. "How's Lucas doing these days?" Her face went completely pale. "What?" "Lucas Harlan, regional sales manager, married to Rebecca, 2 kids, lives in the Riverside condos. Ring any bells?" Alyssa's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "I don't know what you're talking about. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories." I held up my phone, showing her our family group chat. 23 messages had accumulated since my original post. Her mother was demanding explanations. David was asking if she needed help. Katie was offering to come over. "The whole family knows where you were tonight, Alyssa. They know about the fake traffic jam, they know about the Riverside Inn, and they're all waiting for you to explain yourself." She stared at the phone screen, her face cycling through shock, anger, and panic. "You had no right to." "I had every right. I'm your husband, or at least I was until about 2 hours ago." Alyssa's shock quickly transformed into fury. "You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you've got everything figured out." I think I've got enough figured out to make your life very interesting from here on out." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a threatening whisper. "You have no idea what you've just started, Nick? No idea at all?" I closed my book and stood up, meeting her gaze steadily. "Actually, Alyssa, I think you're the one who doesn't understand what's happening here. You see, I'm not the same person you've been lying to for the past 6 months. That guy was trusting. That guy was naive. That guy gave you the benefit of the doubt." I walked past her toward the stairs. "That guy is gone, and you're about to meet his replacement." As I climbed the stairs to our bedroom, I could hear Alyssa frantically dialing her phone, probably calling Lucas, probably trying to figure out damage control. She had no idea that the damage was just getting started. I woke up the next morning to find Alyssa already gone. Her side of the bed looked like it hadn't been slept in, and her car was missing from the driveway. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. "Gone to work early. We need to talk tonight. Please don't do anything else until then." "Too late for that," I muttered, crumpling up the note. I'd been awake since 4 a.m., and I'd spent those early hours doing research. Lucas Harlan wasn't hard to find on social media. Married for 14 years to Rebecca, a nurse at the local hospital, 2 daughters, ages 10 and 12. He worked for a medical device company and made decent money, judging by the photos of his boat and his BMW. More importantly, I'd found Rebecca's contact information. At 8:30 a.m., I sent her a simple message. "Mrs. Harlan, I think we need to talk about our spouses. My name is Nick Bradbury. My wife is Alyssa. I have some information I think you should see." While I waited for her response, I called my best friend Marty. Marty used to be a private investigator before he retired, and he still had connections throughout the area. "Nick, buddy, what's going on? Katie called me last night and said something about Alyssa cheating." "She is. I caught her red-handed last night." "But that's not why I'm calling. I need you to do some digging on a guy named Lucas Harlan." "What kind of digging?" "The kind that shows me exactly who I'm dealing with. Financial records, employment history, other relationships, everything you can find." "You sure you want to go down this road, Nick? Sometimes it's better to just—" "Marty, she humiliated me. She lied to my face for months. She involved my entire family in her deception. I'm not just going down this road, I'm paving it." By 10 a.m., Rebecca Harlan had responded to my message. She wanted to meet for coffee that afternoon. Her text was short, but telling. "I've suspected for months. What proof do you have?" I spent the rest of the morning preparing for what I knew would be Alyssa's counterattack. She was smart, manipulative, and she'd had all night to plan her response. I needed to be ready. Sure enough, at 11:15 a.m., my phone started buzzing with notifications. Alyssa had posted on social media. "Going through a difficult time right now? Sometimes the people closest to you can hurt you the most. Please keep me in your thoughts." Within minutes, concerned friends were commenting, offering support, asking what was wrong. Alyssa was playing the victim card, trying to control the narrative before I could expose the truth. But I'd anticipated this move. I opened my own social media account and posted a simple response. The truth has a way of coming out. Some people create their own difficult times through their choices. Screenshots and location data don't lie. I attached the same evidence I'd shared with the family group chat the night before. The response was immediate and explosive. Friends who had been offering Alyssa sympathy suddenly started asking pointed questions. The narrative flipped in real time. At noon, my phone rang. Alyssa's number. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she screamed into the phone. "I'm telling the truth. You should try it sometime. You're destroying my reputation, my career, my relationships." "No, Alyssa. Your choices destroyed those things. I'm just making sure everyone knows what your choices were." "This is harassment. I'll call the police." "Go ahead. Tell them your husband posted factual information about your whereabouts. I'm sure they will be very sympathetic." She hung up on me. At 2 p.m., I met Rebecca Harlan at a coffee shop downtown. She was a small, tired-looking woman with kind eyes and graying hair. She looked like someone who'd been carrying a heavy burden for a long time. "Thank you for reaching out," she said as we sat down. "I've been going crazy thinking I was imagining things." I showed her the screenshots, the location data, the timeline of Alyssa's lies. Rebecca nodded grimly as she reviewed each piece of evidence. "The Tuesday nights," she said quietly. "He always had client dinners on Tuesday nights, and the weekend business trips that seemed to multiply over the past few months." "How long have you suspected?" "Since Christmas. He bought me a generic gift card and gave it to me still in the store bag. But he spent $300 on some mystery purchase that same week. When I asked about it, he said it was a client gift." We spent an hour comparing notes, building a timeline, sharing evidence. By the time we parted ways, we had a comprehensive picture of our spouse's affair. "What are you going to do?" Rebecca asked as we prepared to leave. "I'm going to make sure they both understand the consequences of their choices. What about you?" "I'm going to talk to a lawyer, and I'm going to make sure my daughters understand that sometimes marriages end because people make selfish decisions." That evening, Alyssa came home ready for battle. She'd spent the day trying to rebuild her image and control the damage, but my social media post had been shared dozens of times. The truth was spreading faster than her damage control efforts. "We need to talk," she said as she walked into the kitchen where I was making dinner. "No, we don't. We're past talking. We're into consequences now." "Nick, please. I made a mistake. I was confused. I was lonely. You were at a motel with another woman's husband while lying to me about traffic jams. That's not confusion, Alyssa. That's a choice. A series of choices, actually." She tried a different approach. "What do you want? Money? The house? I'll give you whatever you want if you just stop this public humiliation." "I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I want Lucas to understand that other people's marriages aren't his playground. And I want everyone who knows us to understand exactly who you really are. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference." My phone buzzed with a text from Marty. "Got some interesting information about your boy Lucas. Call me tonight." I smiled and showed Alyssa the message. "Looks like tomorrow is going to be even more interesting than today." Her face went white. "What does that mean?" "It means Lucas isn't the only one with secrets, and it means you picked the wrong person to betray." That night, after Alyssa locked herself in the guest bedroom, I called Marty. "What did you find?" "Your boy Lucas has been busy. 3 different affairs in the past 2 years. A gambling problem his wife doesn't know about, and some creative expense account reporting at his job." "How creative?" "The kind that could get him fired if his boss knew about it. The kind that could get him in legal trouble if the company decided to press charges. Send me everything you've got." "Nick, are you sure about this? This is getting pretty heavy." "Marty, they made it heavy when they decided to humiliate me and Rebecca. I'm just making sure the weight gets distributed properly." As I hung up the phone, I realized that Alyssa was right about one thing. I had started something, but she was wrong about who was going to finish it. The next morning brought fresh chaos. I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Alyssa had apparently spent the night launching what she probably thought was a nuclear strike. She'd sent detailed messages to my sister Katie, my business partner Jim, and several mutual friends, claiming I was having a mental breakdown and becoming dangerous and unstable. She'd posted on social media about being afraid for her safety and needing space to think. But her biggest mistake was the email she'd sent to my biggest client, suggesting they might want to reconsider their business relationship with someone going through such a difficult personal situation. "Well," I said to my empty kitchen, "if she wants to escalate, we'll escalate." I opened my laptop and began crafting my response. But instead of defensive explanations or angry rebuttals, I took a different approach. I created a simple timeline document. Dates, times, locations, and screenshots. No editorial commentary, no emotional appeals, just facts. I sent this document to everyone who had received Alyssa's messages, along with a brief note. "I understand my wife has been sharing her concerns about my mental state. I thought you might be interested in the factual timeline that led to her concerns. I'll let you draw your own conclusions about who's behaving irrationally." The response was swift and decisive. Katie called within minutes. "Nick, oh my God, I'm so sorry. When I got her message last night, I was worried about you, but now, this is insane. She's been planning this affair for months." Jim, my business partner, was even more direct. "Your wife just tried to sabotage our business because she got caught cheating. I've already called our client to clarify the situation. They're sticking with us, and they want to know if you need any legal support." By 10 a.m., the tide had completely turned. People who had initially been concerned about Alyssa's safety were now asking pointed questions about her honesty and judgment. But I wasn't done. Marty had sent me Lucas's information overnight, and it was even better than I'd hoped. Lucas wasn't just a cheater. He was a serial cheater with a gambling problem and a creative relationship with his expense reports. I crafted a careful email to Lucas's supervisor at the medical device company. "I hope this message finds you well. I'm writing to bring some concerns to your attention regarding one of your employees, Lucas Harlan. As a business owner myself, I thought you should be aware of some activities that might reflect poorly on your company's reputation." I attached documentation of Lucas's expense report discrepancies, his gambling debts, and evidence of his multiple affairs, including the one with my wife. I made sure to frame everything in terms of professional conduct and company reputation rather than personal revenge. At 11:30 a.m., Rebecca Harlan called me. "Nick, something's happening at Lucas's work. He just called me in a panic, saying he needs to come home immediately. He sounded terrified." "Interesting. I wonder what that could be about." Did you do something?" I shared some information with people who had a legitimate interest in Lucas's professional conduct. What they do with that information is up to them. At 2 p.m., Alyssa came home early from work. She stormed into the house like a hurricane, her face flushed with rage. "What did you do to Lucas?" I told the truth about Lucas, same thing I did with you. "He got fired. They escorted him out of the building. His wife is filing for divorce." "Actions have consequences, Alyssa. You both chose to have an affair. These are the natural results of that choice." "You destroyed his life." "No, his choices destroyed his life. I just made sure the right people knew about those choices." She was pacing now, her hands shaking with fury. "You think you're so clever, don't you? You think you've won?" "I think I've leveled the playing field. You and Lucas thought you could humiliate me and Rebecca without consequences. You were wrong? This isn't over, Nick. I have friends. I have resources. I can make your life hell." I laughed, which seemed to infuriate her even more. "Alyssa, take a look around. Your reputation is in ruins. Your affair partner is unemployed and getting divorced. Your own family is questioning your judgment. Your friends are avoiding you. Exactly what resources do you think you have left?" She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see her calculating, trying to figure out her next move. "I want a divorce," she said finally. "Great. I'll have my lawyer draw up the papers. Since you committed adultery, the settlement should be pretty straightforward. You can't prove adultery in court." I pulled out my phone and showed her a folder labeled Legal Evidence. It contained dozens of screenshots, location data, credit card records, and witness statements. "Want to bet?" For the first time since this whole thing started, Alyssa looked genuinely defeated. But I knew her well enough to recognize that this was just a temporary setback in her mind. She was already planning her next move. "There's something else you should know," I said casually. "Lucas wasn't just cheating with you. Marty found evidence of at least 2 other affairs in the past year. You weren't special, Alyssa. You were just convenient." The color drained from her face. "That's not true. Ask Rebecca. She has the evidence too. Turns out Lucas has quite a pattern of behavior. You were just the latest in a series of poor decisions he made." That evening, after Alyssa had retreated to the guest bedroom again, Marty called with an update. "Lucas is in full panic mode. Word is getting around town about why he got fired. His wife has already moved the kids to her mother's house. And get this, his other girlfriend, the real estate agent, found out about Alyssa and is threatening to expose some financial dealings they had together." "What kind of financial dealings?" "Looks like Lucas was using his affairs to get inside information for property investments. The real estate agent was feeding him information about upcoming developments, and he was buying land through shell companies." "That sounds potentially illegal." "Very potentially illegal. The kind of thing that might interest the state attorney general's office." "Interesting. I'll keep that in mind." As I hung up the phone, I realized that Alyssa and Lucas had created a much bigger mess than just a simple affair. They'd built a house of cards, and I'd barely started blowing on it. Tomorrow, I decided, it was time to bring the whole thing down. I woke up Thursday morning to find a note from Alyssa on the kitchen counter. "Gone to stay with my mother for a few days. Need space to think. Don't contact me unless it's an emergency." "Perfect," I muttered, crumpling the note. "Time to work without distractions." Marty called while I was having coffee. "Nick, you need to be careful. Word around town is that Lucas is getting desperate. His wife filed for divorce yesterday, his kids won't talk to him, and he's facing potential criminal charges for the financial stuff." "What's your point?" "Desperate people do stupid things. He blames you for his situation, and he's been asking around about your schedule, your business, where you live." "Let him come. I'm not hiding from anyone." "Just be smart about it, okay? Maybe vary your routine for a few days." But I wasn't interested in hiding. If Lucas wanted to confront me, I'd make it easy for him. That afternoon, I drove to the Rusted Anchor, the local dive bar where I knew Lucas liked to drink. It was the kind of place where working-class guys went to forget their problems, and where guys like Lucas went when they wanted to feel edgy and blue-collar. I found him at the end of the bar, nursing a whiskey and looking like he hadn't slept in days. His expensive clothes were wrinkled, his hair was a mess, and he had the desperate look of a man watching his life collapse in real time. I ordered a beer and sat 2 stools away from him. He noticed me immediately. "You son of a—" he started, but I held up a hand. "Easy, Lucas. We're in public. Let's keep this civilized. Civilized? You destroyed my life. No, Lucas. You destroyed your life when you decided to cheat on your wife with mine. I just made sure people knew about it. He turned on his stool to face me fully. You think you're so smart, don't you? You think you've won? I think I've corrected an imbalance. You and Alyssa thought you could humiliate me and Rebecca without consequences. I proved you wrong. This isn't over. Actually, Lucas, it is. Your marriage is over. Your job is over. Your reputation is over. Your affair with my wife is definitely over. The only question now is whether you're going to accept reality or keep making things worse for yourself. He stared at me with pure hatred. You have no idea what you've started. I started? Lucas, you started this when you decided my marriage was your playground. I'm just finishing it. He stood up abruptly, throwing some money on the bar. We'll see about that. As he walked toward the door, I called out loud enough for everyone in the bar to hear. Give my regards to your wife, Lucas. Oh, wait, that's right. She's filing for divorce because you're a cheater. Never mind. The entire bar went quiet, then erupted in laughter. Lucas's face turned red, but he kept walking. The bartender, a guy named Tommy, who I'd known for years, shook his head. That's the guy who was messing around with your wife? That's him? He doesn't look like much. He's not. Friday morning brought a new development. Rebecca Harlan called me at 7 a.m. Nick, Lucas came by the house last night. He was drunk and angry, demanding to talk to me. I called the police. Are you okay? I'm fine. The police took him away for the night. But he was ranting about you, saying you'd ruined everything, saying he was going to make you pay. What did the police say? They said they'd keep an eye on the situation, but unless he actually threatens you directly, there's not much they can do. Don't worry about me, Rebecca. Lucas is all bark and no bite. He's never had to face real consequences before, so he's panicking. But after I hung up, I called Marty. I need you to keep an eye on Lucas for a few days. I think he's planning something stupid. Already on it. I've got a buddy watching his apartment. Lucas has been making some interesting phone calls. To who? Alyssa, for one. Long conversations, and he's been in touch with some guy named Gavin Price. You know him? I thought for a moment. Gavin Price. Yeah, he's one of Lucas's drinking buddies. Works in IT somewhere. Why? Because Lucas hired him to do some computer work. The kind of computer work that might involve hacking into someone's accounts? My accounts? That would be my guess. I spent the rest of Friday securing my digital life. I changed passwords, enabled two-factor authentication, and moved my important files to a secure server that Gavin Price would never be able to access. But I also did something else. I created a trap. I set up a fake email account and sent myself a message about a secret cash fund I was supposedly hiding from Alyssa in a safety deposit box at First National Bank. I made sure the email looked authentic, but left it in my regular inbox where someone hacking my account would easily find it. Then I waited. Saturday evening, Marty called with an update. Your boy Gavin took the bait. He spent 3 hours yesterday trying to hack into your bank accounts. He also forwarded that fake email about the cash fund to Lucas. Perfect. What's their next move? Word is they're planning to break into your house tomorrow night while you're supposedly at your sister's birthday party. How do they know about Katie's party? Because Alyssa told them. She's apparently feeding them information about your schedule. I smiled. This was going to be fun. Marty, I need you to do me a favor. Can you set up some surveillance equipment in my house? The kind that records everything and uploads it automatically to the cloud? Already ordered it. We'll have it installed by tomorrow afternoon. And Marty, make sure it's the kind of evidence that would hold up in court. Sunday night, I made a big show of leaving for Katie's birthday party. I posted on social media about looking forward to the celebration, and I made sure several neighbors saw me drive away. Then I parked 2 blocks away and walked back through the woods behind my house. At 9:30 p.m., I watched Lucas and Gavin break into my home through the back door. They went straight to my office, looking for evidence of the fake cash fund. They rifled through my files, tried to crack my safe, and spent 20 minutes searching for something that didn't exist. The whole time, 3 different cameras were recording their every move. At 10:15 p.m., they gave up and left. I waited another hour, then called the police. I'd like to report a break-in, I told the dispatcher. I have video evidence of the perpetrators. By Monday morning, Lucas Harlan and Gavin Price were under arrest for breaking and entering. The video evidence was crystal clear, and both men were easily identifiable. But the best part came when the police searched Lucas's apartment and found my fake email printed out, along with handwritten notes about the non-existent cash fund. Looks like they were planning to rob you, Detective Morrow told me as we reviewed the evidence. "This shows premeditation." "I'm just glad I have good security cameras," I replied innocently. Alyssa called me that afternoon, screaming, "You set them up. This is entrapment." "Alyssa, I didn't force them to break into my house. I didn't force them to try to steal from me. They made those choices all by themselves." "The cash fund was fake." "So?" "They didn't know that when they decided to commit a felony. Their intent was to steal from me, which is a crime regardless of whether there was actually anything to steal." "You're destroying everyone around me." "No, Alyssa. The people around you are destroying themselves by making terrible choices. I'm just making sure those choices have appropriate consequences." She hung up on me, but I knew this wasn't over. Alyssa was running out of allies and options, which meant she was about to get even more desperate. And desperate people, as Marty had warned me, do stupid things. Tuesday morning brought news that Lucas and Gavin had been released on bail, but their legal troubles were just beginning. The local newspaper had picked up the story, and by Wednesday, everyone in town knew about the break-in and the circumstances surrounding it. But Alyssa wasn't done fighting. She'd apparently spent her time at her mother's house plotting her next move, and on Thursday, she launched what she probably thought was her masterstroke. She scheduled a public confrontation. The annual Riverside Festival was this weekend, and Alyssa had somehow convinced the organizers to let her make a public statement during the community forum portion of Saturday's events. She'd framed it as a domestic violence awareness presentation, claiming she needed to speak out about psychological abuse and manipulation. Katie called to warn me. "Nick, she's going to try to humiliate you in front of the entire town. She's telling people you've been stalking her, harassing her friends, and orchestrating some kind of revenge campaign." "Let her try," I said. "I've got a few things to say myself." "What are you planning?" "I'm planning to let the truth speak for itself." I spent Friday preparing my own presentation. Not a speech, I wasn't much of a public speaker, but something more effective. A simple chronological display of evidence. Screenshots, photos, audio recordings, and documents, all organized into a clear timeline that told the story without editorial commentary. Saturday arrived with perfect weather for the festival. The whole town turned out for the annual celebration, and by the time the community forum started at 2 p.m., there were nearly 500 people gathered in the main pavilion. Alyssa took the stage first. She looked polished and professional in a conservative dress, her hair styled perfectly, her makeup flawless. She'd clearly spent time preparing for this moment. "Thank you all for listening today," she began, her voice trembling slightly with what sounded like emotion. "I'm here to talk about something very difficult, psychological abuse and manipulation in marriage." She went on to describe a pattern of controlling behavior and emotional manipulation that she claimed I'd subjected her to. She talked about feeling trapped and afraid, and needing to find the courage to speak out. It was a masterful performance. Several people in the audience were nodding sympathetically. A few women were wiping their eyes. If I hadn't known the truth, I might have been moved myself. But then she made a crucial mistake. She claimed that I'd been stalking and harassing her and her friends, and that I'd fabricated evidence to make her look bad. That's when I stood up. "Excuse me," I called out. "I'd like to respond to those accusations." The festival organizer looked confused. "Sir, this isn't really a debate format." "That's okay," Alyssa said quickly. "Let him speak. I'm not afraid of the truth." "Good," I said, walking toward the stage, "because I brought the truth with me." I'd arranged for Jim, my business partner, to help me set up a laptop and projector. Within minutes, we had a clear display visible to everyone in the pavilion. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, "my wife just gave a very emotional speech about psychological abuse and fabricated evidence. I'd like to show you some actual evidence and let you decide for yourselves what's true." The first slide was Alyssa's text message about the traffic jam, alongside the screenshot showing her real location at the Riverside Inn. This is how I discovered my wife's affair. She lied about where she was, and the location data proved it. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Alyssa's face went pale. The next slides showed the timeline of the affair, documented through credit card records, phone logs, and social media posts. Everything was factual, dated, and verifiable. "This is the evidence my wife claims I fabricated. I'll be happy to provide the original files to anyone who wants to verify their authenticity." By the time I got to the screenshots of Lucas and Gavin breaking into my house, the crowd was completely silent. The video footage played on the big screen, showing both men clearly searching through my office. This is the kind of people my wife chose to associate with after I discovered her affair. They broke into my home and attempted to steal from me. I clicked to the final slide. A simple statement in large text. "I never stalked anyone. I never harassed anyone. I never fabricated any evidence. I simply documented the truth and shared it with people who had a right to know. If that's psychological abuse, then I guess honesty is a form of abuse. The crowd erupted. Some people were applauding. Others were shouting questions. Several were taking photos of the evidence with their phones. Alyssa grabbed the microphone. "He's manipulating you. He's twisting everything. I'm the victim here." But her credibility was gone. The evidence was too clear, too comprehensive, too obviously authentic. People were already walking away, shaking their heads in disgust. Helen, Alyssa's mother, stood up in the front row. "Alyssa Marie, you get down from that stage right now. You've embarrassed this family enough." "Mom, please, now." As Alyssa climbed down from the stage, Rebecca Harlan approached the microphone. "I'd like to say something, if that's okay." The crowd quieted down. "I'm Rebecca Harlan. My husband Lucas was having an affair with Alyssa Bradbury. Nick contacted me when he discovered the affair, and together we uncovered the truth about what our spouses were doing." She looked directly at Alyssa. "You didn't just betray your husband. You helped my husband betray me and my children. You participated in breaking up two families. And when you got caught, instead of taking responsibility, you tried to destroy the people who exposed the truth." Rebecca's voice grew stronger. "That's not being a victim. That's being a perpetrator." The crowd applauded again, louder this time. Alyssa was crying now, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage and humiliation. She pushed through the crowd toward the parking area, with Helen following behind her, still scolding. As the crowd began to disperse, dozens of people approached me. Some offered support and sympathy. Others wanted copies of the evidence. A few shared their own stories of infidelity and betrayal. But the most satisfying moment came when Mrs. Granger, our elderly neighbor, patted my arm and said, "I always knew that girl was trouble. You're better off without her." That evening, as I sat in the Rusted Anchor celebrating with Marty and a few other friends, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This isn't over. You haven't won anything. I'll make you pay for what you did to me." I showed the message to Marty. "Alyssa? Has to be. She's using a different phone." "What are you going to do?" I finished my beer and smiled. "I'm going to do exactly what I've been doing all along. I'm going to document everything and let her choices speak for themselves." "You think she'll try something else?" "I'm counting on it. Alyssa can't help herself. She'll keep escalating until she destroys what's left of her credibility. And then? And then it really will be over." But as I drove home that night, I realized that Alyssa was right about one thing. This wasn't over yet. She was too proud, too angry, and too convinced of her own righteousness to give up now, which meant she was about to make her biggest mistake yet. The final confrontation came exactly 1 week after the festival disaster. Alyssa had spent that week in hiding, staying with her mother and avoiding public appearances. But I knew she was planning something. The threatening text messages had continued, each one more desperate and angry than the last. On Saturday morning, I received a different kind of message. "Meet me at the old Riverside Mill tonight at 9 p.m. Come alone. It's time to settle this once and for all." The Riverside Mill had been abandoned for 15 years, a crumbling monument to the town's industrial past. It sat on the riverbank about 2 miles outside town, accessible only by a narrow dirt road. It was the perfect place for someone to stage a dramatic confrontation without witnesses. I called Marty immediately. "She wants to meet at the old mill tonight." "That's a terrible idea, Nick. Don't go." "I have to go. If I don't, she'll just find another way to escalate. Better to end this on my terms." "Then I'm coming with you." "No," she said, "come alone, and I want to see what she's really planning, but I want you nearby, just in case." "What do you think she's going to do?" "I think she's going to try one last manipulation. She probably thinks if she can get me alone, she can convince me to back down or make some kind of deal." "And if she tries something more dangerous?" "Then I'll handle it. But Marty, I need you to call Detective Morrow and give him a heads up. Tell him where I'm going and when. If something goes wrong, I want the police to know exactly where to look." That evening, as storm clouds gathered overhead, I drove to the mill. The building loomed against the darkening sky like something out of a horror movie, its broken windows and rusted metal siding giving it an ominous appearance. I parked near the main entrance and walked inside. The interior was a maze of abandoned machinery, rotting wooden beams, and debris. My footsteps echoed in the cavernous space. "Alyssa," I called out. "I'm here." "Up here." Her voice came from the second floor. I climbed the rickety stairs carefully, testing each step. The second floor had once been the mill's administrative offices, but now it was just empty rooms with broken furniture and graffiti-covered walls. I found Alyssa in what had probably been the manager's office. She was standing by the broken window, silhouetted against the storm clouds outside. She wasn't alone. Lucas Harlan stood beside her, looking nervous and jumpy. He'd lost weight since I'd last seen him, and his clothes hung loose on his frame. His face was gaunt, his eyes darting around the room like he expected trouble. "Hello, Nick," Alyssa said without turning around. "Thank you for coming." "What do you want, Alyssa?" She turned to face me, and I was shocked by her appearance. The polished, professional woman I'd been married to was gone. Her hair was unkempt, her clothes wrinkled, and her eyes had a wild, desperate look. "I want my life back," she said. "I want you to fix what you broke." "I didn't break anything, Alyssa. You did that all by yourself. You destroyed my reputation, my career, my relationships. Your choices destroyed those things. I just made sure people knew what your choices were." Lucas stepped forward. "You need to make this right, Nick. You need to tell people you lied about us." I laughed. "Lucas, you're facing criminal charges for breaking into my house. Your wife divorced you. You lost your job. And you want me to lie to make you feel better? You set us up. That whole thing with the fake cash fund was a trap that you walked into willingly. I didn't force you to break into my house, Lucas. You chose to do that." Alyssa moved closer to me. "Nick, please. We can work this out. We can go back to the way things were." "No, we can't. There's no going back from what you did." "I made a mistake. People make mistakes." "Alyssa, you didn't make a mistake. You made dozens of deliberate choices over months. You planned the affair, you lied to cover it up, you tried to manipulate our friends and family, and when you got caught, you tried to destroy me." She was crying now, but I could see the calculation behind her tears. "What do you want? Money? I'll give you everything in the divorce. Just stop hurting me. I want you to take responsibility for your actions. I want you to admit what you did and accept the consequences." "I can't. Don't you understand? If I admit to the affair, I'll lose everything." "You already lost everything, Alyssa. The only question now is whether you're going to accept reality or keep making things worse." That's when she snapped. "You think you're so perfect," she screamed. "You think you're so much better than me, but you're nothing. You're a nobody with a nothing job in a nothing town." "Maybe, but I'm not a cheater, and I'm not a liar." Lucas grabbed her arm. "Alyssa, let's just go. This isn't working." But she shook him off. "No, I'm not done." She reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. "I recorded our whole conversation tonight. I'm going to edit it to make it sound like you threatened me. I'm going to post it online and tell everyone you lured me here to hurt me." I smiled and pulled out my own phone. "That's a great idea, Alyssa. Except I've been recording this conversation too. And unlike you, I'm not planning to edit anything." Her face went white. "You're bluffing." "Am I? Want to test that theory?" Thunder crashed outside, and the first drops of rain began hitting the broken windows. In the distance, I could hear the sound of car engines approaching. "Expecting someone?" I asked. Alyssa and Lucas exchanged panicked glances. "What did you do?" Lucas demanded. "I told the police where I was going tonight. I told them you'd both been threatening me, and I told them I was concerned about my safety." The sound of car doors slamming echoed from the parking area below. Flashlight beams began moving through the building. "Police! Anyone in here?" "Up here," I called out. "Second floor." Within minutes, Detective Morrow and 2 uniformed officers had climbed the stairs and entered the office. "Everyone okay up here?" Morrow asked, his hand resting on his weapon. "We're fine, Detective. Just having a conversation about consequences." Morrow looked around the room, taking in the abandoned setting, Alyssa's disheveled appearance, and Lucas's nervous demeanor. "Mr. Harlan, aren't you supposed to be staying away from Mr. Bradbury as a condition of your bail?" Lucas's face went even paler. We just wanted to talk. In an abandoned building? At night? During a storm?" Morrow shook his head. "That's a violation of your bail conditions, sir. You're under arrest." As the officers handcuffed Lucas, Alyssa made one last desperate play. "Officer, he threatened us. He lured us here and threatened to hurt us." I held up my phone. "I have the entire conversation recorded, Detective. Feel free to listen to it." Morrow took my phone and spent several minutes reviewing the audio. When he handed it back, he was shaking his head. "Ma'am, the only threats I heard on that recording came from you. You threatened to fabricate evidence and file false reports. That's a crime. But, ma'am, I strongly suggest you contact a lawyer and stop talking." As the police escorted Lucas away and Alyssa followed behind them, still protesting her innocence. Detective Morrow stayed behind with me. You know, Nick, I've been a cop for 20 years, and I've seen a lot of domestic situations, but I've never seen anyone handle something like this the way you did. What do you mean? You never lost control. You never got violent. You never broke the law. You just documented everything and let the truth speak for itself. Sometimes that's all you can do. Most people can't do that. Most people let their emotions take over and end up making things worse for themselves. We walked down the stairs together, our footsteps echoing in the empty building. What happens now? I asked. Lucas will probably go back to jail for violating his bail. Your wife? Well, she's not facing any criminal charges yet, but if she keeps making threats and false reports, that could change. And the divorce? With all the evidence you've got, that should be pretty straightforward. As we reached the parking area, I could see Alyssa sitting in the back of a police car, still crying and gesticulating wildly. Lucas was in another car, staring straight ahead with a defeated expression. You know what the funny thing is? I said to Detective Morrow. What's that? All of this could have been avoided if she'd just been honest from the beginning. If she'd come to me and said she was unhappy, if she'd asked for a divorce before starting the affair, if she'd taken responsibility when she got caught, none of this would have happened. But she didn't do any of those things. No, she chose to lie, cheat, manipulate, and try to destroy me when she got caught. Every single step of this process was her choice. And now she has to live with the consequences of those choices. Now she has to live with the consequences of those choices, I agreed. As I drove home through the storm, I realized that Alyssa had been right about one thing at the very beginning. I wasn't the same person she'd been married to. That guy had been trusting, forgiving, and willing to give people the benefit of the doubt. But that guy was gone, and in his place was someone who understood that actions have consequences, that truth matters more than feelings, and that sometimes the only way to stop a bully is to hit back harder than they hit you. The storm raged all night, but by morning the sky was clear. And for the first time in months, so was my future. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. Alyssa got almost nothing. Adultery has consequences in our state, and I had overwhelming evidence. Lucas was sentenced to 6 months in jail for the break-in and violation of his bail conditions. Gavin Price got probation and community service. I kept my business, my house, and my self-respect. More importantly, I learned something valuable about myself. When pushed to the wall, I don't break. I push back, and sometimes that makes all the difference.